Okay. Well, hello, everybody. My name's Steve Donkin. I am the building rep for Cardozo Education Campus, and I'm going to talk a little bit today about using the phone tree to organize your building. I don't claim to know all the answers, which is why I hope this will be somewhat of a dialogue rather than just a lecture. But I think it's important to kind of just cover the basics of this, and this is basic stuff, but it's helpful, I think, to kind of just lay it out there for everybody so we can all take it in and discuss it. Okay, so starting right in. What is a phone tree? Well, we can define it any way we want, but the definitions that I'm going by is it's basically where you have each member in a building has 4 or 5 what we might call phone buddies, and they have their phone numbers. And it's preferably, although it's not necessary and it may not always be possible, to pair or to partner people with other members that they already have a relationship with. So that can make it a little bit easier, people who maybe are more comfortable talking with each other. But as I said, sometimes you can't cover everybody that way, so you might want to try to assign people, look for volunteers, maybe more outgoing people who don't mind talking to people they don't know as well. And then the other thing is, a phone tree is used for action calls, what I would call action calls, like, hey, there's this event coming up, or I want you to know about it, or there's this action coming up. But also, just regular check-ins. And again, if there's people that already have a, relationship with each other, maybe they already do that. So it can move pretty smoothly if that's the case. But you also, phone calls are nice because you actually have people conversing, as opposed to text messages or emails. So you want to encourage that as much as possible. And going on to the next one, that kind of leads into why a phone tree. Well, first, it decreases the workload. My building, Cardozo, we have some 90-some members in our building. That's a lot of people to keep in touch with and track of. So it helps when we delegate out the responsibilities and know that various members are going to take on, actually connecting with the other members. And through that, it ensures, maximum outreach to the members. You want to, as much as you can, get all the members engaged, have them, know what's going on and be informed. You don't want to leave anybody out, hey, I didn't hear about this, I didn't know this. You want to try to reach everybody. And it's also, it has what I call the human touch. As I said, a phone conversation, you're actually talking to the person. You're not just, texting or emailing them. And that also leads to the other one, is that the next one is, they're conversations. They're not what I would call info dumps, just, hey, can come to this action on this day at this time, end of message. It's, you can, of course, that's important. It's important to do that through the phone tree, but also, as I said, you can have conversations, find out what people are thinking. The various members can gather information about issues and thoughts and feelings of the various members and then report them back. As I said, I don't claim to know all the answers, so I just left a bullet point here. Anybody else have any other thoughts or ideas so far on, what a phone tree is or why it might be important?
I think also like rapid response. We've done it for all sorts of things, like big to small. Back when we had master educators at Woodson, right? Like if your social studies master educator walked through the door, we'd activate. We mostly grouped by departments, though not exclusively. We would be able to contact each other really fast and just be like, hey, the master educator's in the building, like, be mentally prepared. You know, you might be the target. We've also had, you know, things like, well, I'm also just thinking about what happened last night with the parent town hall, where the chancellor seemed to imply that not everyone would be contacted in the case of exposure to COVID inside a building. We would need, you know, the minute that we knew something, so if we were contacted by the district, but it was only going to be our cohort, that we could immediately alert the rest of the building that we'd been contacted about this issue. So we take that power out of DCPS's hands to hide information. And I think it works better when it's someone that you trust. And while you might trust the building rep, especially in some of the larger buildings, it can be hard to be close to everybody. So it might be easier to just share, like, hey, you know, to your close colleague in that smaller group, that then can kind of, you know, get up the chain. And potentially if you need to report something that you want to stay anonymous, then, you know, you just report it to the person that you trust in your smaller group and they can report it on your behalf.
Just a point of interest. Is there any testing being discussed at all? I never thought to ask this. The teachers have to be tested, the kids have to be tested, or is the simple test we have is, I feel okay and I'll take your temperature? Has anybody discussed testing at all with anybody?
Yesterday?
I wasn't at the town hall meeting. I couldn't make that, but.
Anticipates my next slide, but go ahead.
Okay.
Laura. Any other thoughts? No? Okay. So,
But just to piggyback on what Daniel said, not only just through DCPS schools, but also through the charter schools, because I have students who next year will be going to charter schools, and then their sister will still be at my school, or their brother sister will still be at my school. So therefore, I mean, I'm not sure how that interaction will work. I don't know about phone trees with charter schools, but there still needs to be some communication about, you know, it needs to be a worldwide, a citywide network on any school that gets hit, way beyond the phone tree, because like we all are, it's like 2 or 3 degrees of separation amongst anybody who lives in the DMV area.
Well, we're trying to get those schools unionized, but that's a long step. I do want to ask if we can maybe table certain parts of the conversation to the end when we can pause the recording and then, or stop the recording and then just freely discuss.
Okay, my apologies.
Oh, okay.
okay. Well, as Daniel, as I said, anticipated, he's right. If I can go to the next slide. So phone trees are an essential part of member organizing. And I made a little flow chart here. Hope you can see it. So at the bottom, you know, of course, we have our members, individual members, some 5,000 or so of them, connected, you know, every 4 or 5, whatever, or in a building are connected to their phone buddy. And then the phone buddy, all the phone buddies are connected to the building rep for each school. I have 2 here. The building reps connected to the field reps, which each represent, I think, about 20 or so schools. And then all that comes together at the top to form our union. So yeah, it's a kind of a pipeline, you know, from the membership all the way up to the union level. And you see, these are not one-directional arrows; they are 2-directional arrows because information goes back and forth between them. It's not just a one-way flow. And this is the way that, you know, we keep our union unified, you know, informed, organized, and as it says here, phone trees are an essential part of that. Okay. So I want to just share a little bit about how we've done it at my school, Cardozo, and, you know, the question is, how do we start? And here's a suggestion. This is what I did. At our school, we have bi-weekly membership meetings on Zoom. Of course, not all the members show up, but you can also do this via email to your membership. We heard other discussions in this series about forming your membership list and getting contacts and such. You can utilize that for this. At our meeting, we just had a sign-in sheet, which was a Google form, asked for their basic information. This is just a screenshot of part of it. We asked for their name, their personal email, their cell phone number, of course. And then I had a question at the bottom. I hope you can read it. It says, I can help keep Cardozo engaged by adopting these 5 Cardozo colleagues as contact buddies. And, people can just write in who they can. And some people did, some people didn't. Some people said, yeah, I can help, but they didn't name anybody. So, that's somebody I would connect back with to kind of, specify who they could be buddies with. But that's one way to gather information. You can send this out, as I said, during a meeting or, via email. And, I think it's important to remember when you send out things by email, recognize that, people don't always read their emails regularly. A lot of things tend to get lost in people's emails. So you might have to send it out more than once.
At Woodson, we use our SCAC committee as the phone tree heads because we also kind of utilize it to try to gather information and share information between our SCAC meetings as a whole building and our meetings with our principal to make sure that we are gathering information from our members to bring to the table and that we know what their concerns are. And so we have a group chat of the SCAC members. We are pretty close, so I think that helps. And then from there, we run our building list, we run together. So then we all have access to the contact information. We each get assigned members who we're in charge of meeting with, gathering information from. Like if we wanted to reach out and make sure everyone knew about the petition, we each have our 5 or 6 members that we do that with. And the building reps kind of coordinating us as members of SCAC. We include the alt rep as well to try to continue to spread out the duties, because for some of the larger schools, and we don't have as many as Cardozo, but we have 60 some odd members. So we didn't want each person to have 10 or 8. So we tried to get it down by including the alt rep as well.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I'm going to try to, let me just show you what I do with that information as a suggestion. I have a spreadsheet, which I'm going to try to show it to you without giving away people's personal information. So that's why it's down at the bottom here. But you see, it's a standard spreadsheet, member name, they pay their dues or not, position, department, their cell phone number, personal email, and then other information. And I have this column here, phone tree buddies. And, as people respond, and I'm still developing this. So, but, when I get somebody, who says they can be phone tree buddies, or coordinate, the phone tree, I put their name in there. Or I'm sorry, next to their name, I have who they're going to be. Let me find one. Oops. Who they can have as their phone trees buddy. Here's one that was interested. You can see, but didn't specify any names. Need to follow up. Okay, this person said I can do these 4 people. And then I put that person's name next to whoever they are, so I know, those people are already connected in some way. They're not a person running, in charge of the phone tree, but they are on somebody else's buddy list. And as I populate that, with the others, I haven't put them all in yet that I've got, but, then hopefully, you can see where the gaps are. And focus on getting everybody covered. Okay. So this, we're coming to the end. Let me just finish up and then we can have some, discussion. Yeah, one last slide. So other ways, other than that Google form method, other ways to recruit members for phone trees, again, pretty basic, just direct one-to-one outreach, give them a call, send an email. Hey, would you like to be part of our phone tree so we can keep members engaged? And you explain it, if it needs explanation. We'd already talked about it in some of our meetings, and so a lot of our members have an idea what a phone tree is and what its function is going to be. But explain it if they need it. Hey, I know you're close to Katie, Keisha, and Carl, so maybe they can be your phone buddies. Okay. And then, if you're a building rep, and you got new staff, you might want to consider taking those people on, because presumably they would have not yet established any relationships in the building yet. Unless you have somebody who's, willing to do that, and, seems like they're a good kind of person to interact with new people who are still trying to figure out, what's going on in the building and in the system in general. And again, I'll leave space for other, if anybody else has any thoughts, comments.
It seems to me that the easiest way to do this, generally speaking, people in the same department know each other. It seems to me that the building rep should contact the heads of the department, or a designated person, and they simply call the other members of their department. It is clean, it is easy, it is simple. It doesn't, you're putting all this effort into making sure those who know this, those who knew that. And while it's a lovely idea, I think that it's problematic in that it's also incredibly complex and inefficient. Let's keep it simple. One person from each department.
Proximity. We've done it grade level. Like, I think it really just depends on your building. For your building, that might make the most sense if that's who you spend time with and are close to. But the relationships are paramount in a phone tree. And if the relationships are not the strongest in the department for whatever reason, it just might not be the best for every building. That's all.
I understand that, but you need some systemic way to start. And to just try to divide up 60 people between, say, 10 is, it gets confusing as all get out. You're spending 3 hours just trying to put together a phone tree. Start off simple. You can change it as you go along, but start, if you want to do it by grade, if you want to do it by department, if you want to do it by floor, if you want to do it by even number and odd number in classrooms, if you want to do it alphabetically, none of that matters. We simply have to establish it to begin with, and then we can switch things around.
Yeah.
But you follow what I'm saying?
I would say, yeah, it can be an evolving process as well. I mean, you can try it one way, see how it works. We can't really prescribe how exactly to do that, because, it really does just depend on the dynamics, the relationships within each individual building. And the people in the building know best what those are. But if you need a structure, by department you can start, or floor level or whatever, but just recognize that, you want it to be an evolving process. If one way doesn't work out, try something else. So, yeah. Anything else on that? Okay. So I'm just going to wrap up here, and then we can look at any final comments or questions. I want to, let's see. Oh, so let me see if you can see my screen. I just want to show that, we've talked about some good resources, some various books and stuff. And I know that we've talked about, this book, of course, everybody hopefully is reading, How to Jumpstart Your Union, about the Chicago Teachers Union. It's available from Labor Notes. We're doing a book study on this, actually. And this is a quote from one of my heroes, really the founder of community organizing. Although a lot of what he did applies to what we're doing, organizing a labor union. And this is from this book, Rules for Radical by Saul Alinsky, kind of a classic in the field. And he said, this is from that book, one can lack any of the qualities of an organizer with one exception and still be effective and successful. That exception is the art of communication. It does not matter what you know about anything if you cannot communicate to your people. In that event, you are not even a failure, you're just not there. So, finally, and this is my quote. I said that. Phone trees, like the branches of real trees, provide the connections that help the whole organism thrive. I guess that's because I'm a biologist, so I look to biology for analogies. And of course, a tree cannot survive without the branches that help bring nutrients and water to all the parts of the organism. So with that, thank you for your attention. Any final thoughts or comments?
I do have a question. In terms of information, I'm wondering about connecting with some of the other folks in the building, particularly in an elementary school. We have aides who are not a part of our union, but I think who should be organized and informed in the same way as we are. Do you recommend adding like aides to your phone tree, or just kind of like giving them particular information that might not be pertinent to, or that might be pertinent to them and not all information?
I mean, I'd say yes. Maybe they'll do it at the member level. So you're not adding too much to the people who've already taken on being phone buddies kind of within WTU communication. So like you could be thinking of a method, for example, like if it's just that each teacher who has an aide in their room does share pertinent information, you know, to the aide that's in their room, and that is kind of, you know, an established, like that's a practice that you'd establish in your school. I know our building reps in communication with, you know, the custodial team and security as well, for some of those issues. It's a little more informal, but it is a good idea in terms of once you've established your own internal communication, how can we add potentially parent allies, our, you know, teaching aides, security, because we are a whole family in the building for sure.
We at Banneker are in our meeting. We're having a meeting to discuss this on Friday. We're attempting to include the janitorial staff and the kitchen staff. We are excluding on purpose any administrative